Thank you for coming out. Our meeting here tonight, it has a purpose. We hope to help you be more informed as coaches of what's going on the field, as well as what the expectation is. I'm Matt Marziel. I'm on the executive board. I'm in charge of coordinating with the officials and making sure we have enough officials in order to have a league. And that's a big reason why we have this meeting, is to make sure you help us have enough officials so we can have a league. We're going to make a couple things very clear tonight as to league protocol, what's expected of you, and then Kelly and Morgan that are here with us, our high school officials and two of our guys that work on our crews, they're going to do a rules clinic with you, making sure you're on the same page as to what's going on. In this opening speech that I get to give, the little quick parts, I attempt to actually say a few things that strike you. I don't need you to like me, but I need to strike you, okay? Some of you are not as good coaches as you think you are. That's the first thing I want to say to you. You're not, especially if you think you're here to win the Super Bowl or you're going to get 12 kids college scholarships. It's not happening. I'm telling you right now, it's not happening. But if you can actually get 20 kids to be great young men that don't end up in jail and actually have a plan once they get out of high school, then you've done a pretty good job. But some of you right now are like, no man, I'm here for the 12 kids to the NFL. And you are the guy that I'm telling you, you suck, because it ain't happening, okay? So with that said, my first part of the speech is about ejections. Ejections still exist. It's part of this game. It should not happen in Little League football. There's just no reason why we have coaches getting ejected. A couple of things making really clear tonight here in this meeting, you should have your head coach, your defensive coordinator, and your offensive coordinator. If you're an overachieving district, you might have invited every coach you have, which we welcome every coach to be here to understand what the expectation is. If you are sitting in this room and you are not the head coach, you also do not have a voice on that field. You are there to coach boys. You are not there to talk to the officials. Please understand that. The guy that is here as your head coach, he is the guy and the only guy on your sideline that should be talking to the officials. And to help streamline that a little bit more, they're there to talk. If they've got a question or they'd like to talk to the officials, the only official that should be talking to them is the white hat. That's the instruction we've given back to the officials. So when you've got 3 or 4 crazy coaches yelling there on the sideline, he's actually there to just tell you, I can't help you, but if your head coach wants to talk to the white hat, I can get his attention. And then if it's about to be an intelligent conversation, like you're not just yelling crazy things, he'll get the white hat for you. If it just looks like it's going to be crazy, he's probably just going to give you a 15-yard flag or at least a sideline warning, and then you're going to get the privilege to talk to the white hat. So as I'm speaking, it's not all meant to be negative, but it's meant to be very clear for you as your job is to coach young men and make them good football players, better young men. Leave the officials alone. Your game will go a lot better if you do, okay? On the ejections part that I mentioned, just to clarify for some of you that don't understand the rule, when a coach gets ejected, his son is leaving with him. The game's over. If it's the quarterback, hope you got a backup. If it's the assistant coach, his son's going with him, okay? Don't do that to the kid. And don't turn that on and yell at the official of, you just took that from our kid, because he didn't. The coach that got ejected took it out of the kid's hand, okay? We're not here for a lot of war stories, but I'm going to give you one from last year. So I'm from Salem. We play quite a few games down there. And last year we had a team from Vernal, okay? Game's going. Coach is fine from Vernal. And then all of a sudden from in the back, we get a couple F-bombs at the official, UF and suck. And boom, we got an ejection going on, which should have happened. And it was the grandpa. It was the grandpa. So we hunt up with the coach, we're like, what kid's with him? And then we say, all right, that kid's going. And now the mom, who the grandpa's the father of, she's like, you can't do that to my kid. And we're like, we didn't. His grandpa did. Okay, so the reason I tell you that story is it goes as well with parents. It's not just coaches. If you got a crazy bunch of parents, they have the opportunity to ruin the game for their kids as well. And you as the coach are our first person we're asking to to keep your fans in check. Don't let it get to the point that we've got a battle going on with coaches and officials and parents. You as the coach own it, take care of it. And then the last part to that is, we are aware that not all the officials are perfect, not all the officials are great. We're aware of that. But you're not going to take care of it right there in that game. You're not. So you've got a choice to make of, we got to find a way to work around him, we got to find a way to get through it. And then, since you're here as a coach, I'm assuming you know who your district president is. That's your first route if you actually have an issue with the official. Find out who the official is. Don't do the famous yelling and screaming, and Bob, we know who you are, you'll never officiate here again. No, don't give that promise, because you don't have that authority or power. But find out his name, and then report that back to your district president. And your district president will get with me, and I'll get with Kelly, and we'll look into what happened, and at least try to get some results or changes if they need to happen. So that's the part of the speech coming to you tonight from the board. At the end, you get to hear a motivational speech from me again about 4 more rules, just making sure you understand protocol rules. But the last thing I've got before I turn the time over to Kelly is, last year, I am the genius that came up with that idea of having clipboards on the table when all you guys signed up, and it was a massacre, and everybody's like, who the hell thought this was a good idea to have clipboards? Okay, it wasn't. It was a really bad idea. But we have some smart guys in our boards, and one of them is a computer genius, and he came up with a SKU that in a little bit into this, about 10 or 15 minutes into this meeting tonight, this is Cole right here, and in the back, where'd Tom go? Tom from Harriman. Tom's back there. Cole's going to give half these SKUs to Tom, and they're going to hand them to you. You're going to pass them up and down the row. That's how you're going to get counted for you attended this meeting, is you're going to pull out your cell phone, you're going to scan that SKU. It's going to ask you 5 questions. It's going to ask you who you are, what district you're from, what grade you coach. It's going to ask you 5 questions. They're really simple. They're not hard, like, are you filling this out for your buddy that's not here? Which you can't, because you're going to scan it for yourself and then it's going to disappear. But you're going to fill it out, then you're going to hit send, and that's going to get sent back to your district president. And that's how we're going to track if you attended the meeting tonight or not. So at that point, then he's going to look at his 6th grade team and go, why did I only have one of my coaches at that meeting? Okay, and so that's how that's going to work. Like I said, Tom and Cole will send those out once Kelly gets rolling. Keep the sheets moving back and forth. There's about 15 of them, so it should go pretty quick of you being able to scan those and get that information sent in. So with that said, I'm going to turn the time over to Kelly Woodbray. Kelly's our head official. Kelly's the best official I know, and I've been involved with this for a long time. You guys up here on the north end of the valley that play a little bit better football, and some of you play every year for the state championships, you know Kelly because he's on your field every time. And that's a great thing to be able to say that we got the guy that's on the 5A and 6A state championship willing to also work Little League football. So with that, we'll give the time to Kelly.
Thanks, Matt. You know, we love this game. Friday nights, the blood, you know, gets going. You just get excited, and there's just an excitement about football season. And at the point that I'm not excited, that's when I'll hang up the cleats. This will be my 31st season. Started when I was in, I've been married for just about a year. Went to my little brother's game. He was a freshman in high school, and I just watched the game and thought, man, you know, I really want to keep connected. And I decided to talk to the officials at halftime or something. They said, yeah, hey, we have a meeting on Monday night. Why don't you come? So the Monday night I went to their meeting. One of the guys there, you know, this was in Logan, and you couldn't buy a uniform in Logan. You had to go to Ogden. But a guy was traveling to Ogden. So I gave him some money. He bought my uniform and said, well, hey, I have the game, your brother's game this next week. So I show up to the game. I'm helping these little freshmen, you know, get ready for their game, get my uniform. Well, then find out one of the officials' daughter got in an accident on the way to the game, and they needed somebody to step in. I had no clue what I was doing. But I went and I put my uniform on. I came back out, and the coach was kind of, what are you doing? Because I was just helping his running backs, you know. And now I'm wearing a uniform. I get in there, have no idea how to officiate, no idea how to stay out of the way. And there was a great tackle. I got to get this spot. So I come running in. I get my spot. Next thing I know, bam! Some kid just got knocked right into me. Blood, cut my ear, blood all the way down on my brand new knickers. You know, I was hooked. Loved it. It was a great game. You know, I go home, my wife was like, oh, I have blood all over. It was that bad of a hit, but I've loved it, and I enjoy doing that. I love the game. Like Matt said, we aren't here to be an enemy. I guess Matt really didn't say that, but I want you to know our goals are the same as your goals, and that is that these young men have a great experience, and they come to love the game. That's what we want, because we love the game. At a coin toss, whether it's a varsity or a Little League game, I will say to the young man, this is the greatest game invented for man to play. And we love it that much, and that's why we're there. Not all officials have 30 years or 40 years. Some of them are brand new. And some of you are brand new. And we're all learning together. So please, help us out. We'll help you out. We'll do what we can. But let's not run some of these guys away. The last few years, we have a lot of young guys. We're like really excited. They're going to step in. They're going to be here. This generation is a lot different. People don't stick around. If they feel like they're just going to get yelled at, it's not worth it to them. We have some really good young officials that have stopped after 2 years. They said, well, I just don't want to be yelled at every time I go out on the field. So please help us out. And with that, if you know some young people, they're looking for something to do on a Saturday, maybe they're just a young college student, get with us. We have a special code that we can give them. It gives them a discount to register with the state. They'll only do Little League football, and we'll get them going, have them get a uniform, and we'll try to get them on some crews with some experienced officials. You know, Matt said you get to talk to the white hat. Sometimes we're going to rotate positions, and so there's going to be kind of a crew chief. And you'll recognize on some crews who the crew chief is. It's a guy that has the experience, and he's kind of helping these, because everyone needs to have an opportunity to learn. So you're going to go with that crew chief. When we talk about sportsmanship and behavior, the worst thing that happens is when people lose their cool. And this is right from the rule book. This is what is considered an unsportsmanlike, non-contact, unsportsmanlike penalty. Using profanity, insulting or vulgar language or gestures, attempting to influence a decision by a game official, disrespectfully addressing a game official, indicating objections to a game official's decision. Now, that doesn't mean if you start to say, hey, I didn't agree with that you're going to get a flag. It's the manner in which you do it. If you become personal, if you come on the field. Okay, the field is not your field. The field is for the players. During certain times, you're welcome to come on the field, but if you want to talk to the official should come to you onto the sideline. Had an experience, and this kid, I think it was a 6th grade or a 7th grade game. Tight game, kid intercepts the pass. He doesn't know what to do. He's running back and forth, he's running backwards, he's going all over the place, kind of carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. Gets hit, ball goes flying. Fortunately for him, his teammate recovered the ball. Okay, so you's a coach, you're all excited, you got the ball. Well, what happened? All of a sudden, a coach comes running on the field and starts bumping the kid, yelling at him. He's not grabbing him physically, but every time the kid tries to get past, he just does a little chest bump to him. And he's yelling at him because he fumbled the ball. What am I going to do? No coach has the right to physically assault a player. I threw my flag, and then his response, that's my son. I said, that's okay. Doesn't matter who he is. You do not come on the field and physically assault a player. It doesn't belong there. I've seen where a coach will have a kid do push-ups on the field in 4th grade because he missed a tackle. And then ask the coach, hey, coach, come on. Oh, he knows he needs to do this because he missed the tackle. It makes him a better player. No, you just embarrassed him in front of all of his peers and his family. Okay, let's try not to do those kind of things. Don't belong in this league. And I really appreciate Cole and Matt and the message that they're trying to send in our behavior and how we, both as officials and as coaches. And if we have an official that's out of line, Matt told you, go to your district president and let's get the information. Let's find out what's going on. Because we can't come with an attitude of we know everything, because we don't. We make mistakes. I look back at one of the first years I was a varsity referee. Crazy, it was only my 2nd year doing varsity, and I got a varsity referee game. It was the worst game you have ever seen. I'll just tell you that. I look back and think, oh my word, what was I doing? Because I didn't understand a lot of the things that time and experience help you learn. So be patient with some of these guys. They're learning just like you are. Again, if you have some young men that want to do this, send them our way. We'll get them going and we'll get them some opportunities. So we want to talk about rules. Part of the game is understanding the rules. Well, what happens a lot of times is people complain about calls or no calls based on different rules that don't exist in high school. They're looking at college games, or looking at the NFL, and so there are just some things that the game is the same game played, but we do play by different rules. So what we want to do is talk about some of the basic rules, some of the new rules that just came out that more align with some of those upper levels. One of the things also to be aware of is a philosophy that we have as officials. It's advantage, disadvantage, and point of attack. If I have a sweep to the right and my wide receiver out here is holding on to the defensive back on the left side, did it make a difference? Was there an advantage gained by him holding that defender? No. There's no advantage gained. It wasn't at the point of attack. So those are the things that we're going to look at. And sometimes what happens is we follow the play. Things are going to happen behind us that really don't necessarily influence the play. We're not going to call something that doesn't influence the play. Now, we might go up to the young man and say, hey, you're grabbing onto that defender. If the ball had come your way, that's going to be a 10-yard penalty. You can't be grabbing him. So that's a thing to understand. It's advantage, disadvantage. When it's a safety issue, there is no such thing as advantage, disadvantage, point of attack. Safety issue, personal fouls, Morgan's going to talk a little bit about it, hitting defensive players, all of those, we have to call them. And if we see it, we're going to have to call it because it's the safety that's big. And a lot of the rules over the last few years that have changed have been focused on the safety of the players involved. Gone is the day that you can light a guy up. You just can't do it anymore. And we'll throw a blindside block penalty or a defensive player penalty, and the coaches are going nuts. That was a good football play, and they'll tell the kid, "You keep doing that." Well, no, because if he keeps doing it, it's going to cost you 15 yards each time. Because we can't play that way anymore for the safety of the kids. And we're going to talk a little bit about what makes hits legal and what makes them illegal. And Morgan's going to hit on the blindside block defensive player later. Those are the big things that happen is we just simply can't play the way we were taught when we were in high school. The deke leaders, those beautiful highlight reel plays, you just can't do it anymore because there are too many injuries. And what is going to happen if we don't change it? The day's going to come where we'll be talking. Do you remember when we used to play high school football? Do you remember when we used to play Little League? Because there are people out there that are trying to get rid of the game because they say it's too dangerous. And that's why the changes in rules are happening to help us maintain the integrity of the game, but keep the kids safe and let us keep playing. New rule this year, and I'll just, by raise of hand, how many of you have questioned why you got a 20-yard penalty? You had a holding that's 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, and it's a spot foul. And so we add another 10 yards from the spot, and all of a sudden you have first down and 30. Tell me which fourth grade team's going to overcome a first down and 30. Okay, they're not going to do it. Okay, that was a philosophy in NFHS. It was called the all but one principle, which is whatever hurts the offense the most. That's a simple way to put it. Yet in the college and pros, you have a holding behind the line of scrimmage. What's the enforcement spot? You go back to the line of scrimmage. It's only a 10-yard penalty. Well, this year, NFHS has changed that penalty. Now, any penalty by the offense, well, there are a couple of exceptions, but the major ones, any penalty by the offense behind the line of scrimmage on a running play will be enforced from the previous spot. So instead of having a 10 yards added to that 7-yard holding, it's only going to be a 10-yard penalty. The only exceptions to that would be an illegal forward pass, illegal handing the ball forward, intentional grounding, illegal kicking. Okay, but like the holding and the illegal block in the back, those, they're going to go back to the previous spot, unless it's in the end zone. Okay, if you have a holding in the end zone, it's a safety. You don't get that provision. So that's a great rule change. Finally, they changed the rule that doesn't kill a drive because of a holding penalty. It'll just be a true 10-yard penalty. A change last year, we talk about player safety. All these changes they've made to protect the players. And who is the most vulnerable player on your team? Who is the most vulnerable, susceptible to being injured on your team? Your quarterback, right? And yet in high school, they still have intentional grounding. They still have it at the other levels. But in high school, there was no exception. Last year, they changed the rule and added the exception that the quarterback, or the first person to get the ball from the center, and it's been clarified this year, can't go to the quarterback and then pitch it, is offered an exception as long as they are outside of the tackle box, about 3 yards. They can throw the ball not to a receiver to avoid a loss of yardage, as long as the ball goes beyond the line of scrimmage or the line of scrimmage extended, which means out of bounds. As long as it goes past the line of scrimmage, they can now legally ground the ball. But not straight back. They got to be outside that tackle box. And that's going to be a judgment. You know, we talk, as long as he's taking a couple steps and he's rolling, he can get rid of it. There are teams that took great advantage of that. But now all of a sudden your quarterback's not thinking, I'm going to get killed, and they can't get rid of the ball. And I know, Cole, you probably appreciated being a quarterback coach and having sons that played quarterback. His sons never got that kind of protection. And they try to throw the ball away, and then they get dinged with a loss of down, a 5-yard penalty from the spot. Morgan will say my claim to fame is Zach Wilson's last high school football game. I threw 2 intentional groundings on him. And they lost. That wasn't my fault, though, that they lost. It was an intentional grounding by the rules that were being played by then. So those are some great things that have changed. Okay, now we're going to kind of go through a little bit more with the penalties. At the high school level, there are uniform guidelines. They are a lot different than the college guidelines. In fact, I think probably the most liberal guidelines would be the college, because the pros, they get pretty strict on having your jerseys tucked in and not extra stuff on. But in high school, they are very strict. This is not a game. You're not making $1 million. Okay? When your players are making $1 million, we'll let them wear what they want. But there are certain things that are illegal. Okay? Let's start with eye shields. Tinted eye shields are illegal. any tint. They need to be clear. Now, if they have an eye situation, some kind of an eye problem, they can wear sunglasses, and that's okay, but the eye shield must be completely clear. Towels. The rule last year was if any player on your team had a towel, every player on the team that had a towel had to have the exact same towel, same color, same manufacturer. Okay, this year it said as long as it meets the towel specifications, it doesn't matter what color it is. So what is a legal towel? It has to be at least 4 inches wide, no more than 12. And it has to be at least 18 inches and no longer than 36. Is that right? No, 4 and 12. So minimum is 4 and 12, maximum is 18 and 36. So these little tiny 2-inch wide, 1-inch wide, 3 feet long streamers are illegal. Okay, they're just adornments. They're not doing anything except for making somebody look cool. Please get rid of those. Any writing on the towel is illegal. You can have a team logo that fits within that little 2.5 inch. I'm not going to take out a tape measure, okay? But you can't have the Gatorade and the Powerade and the Under Armour towels. Just a normal towel, plain towel with the ones that they buy with the little clip, little Nikes. Those are fine. Okay, eye paint. Okay, face paint. I don't know why the rule is there, but I know that in a high school game, we will stop the game and throw an unsportsmanlike penalty on the head coach if a kid comes in with illegal face paint for the first time. Then we'll send the kid out every time he comes back on the field the rest of the game. Okay, all you can have for face paint is 1 line under each eye, straight line, not the claw, not over the nose. So we will ask you to please make sure they get rid of their face paint. Jewelry is illegal. You can get, kids have their chains on. Make sure they take those off. They wear watches. Those are illegal. And the little wristbands, those little rubber bands they have, okay, those are all considered adornments. The little gunners, the Nike gunners that makes them, makes their muscles look a lot bigger. Okay, those are all illegal. What you can have your play card. You can have a play card, and you can have a sweatband on the wrist as long as it's within a couple inches of your wrist. So that's what you can wear. And a sleeve for some of these turf fields, you can wear a sleeve. We're not going to tell a kid you can't wear that to prevent your turf burns. But those are the things that we're asking them to do in high school. So if in Little League we're allowing it, now you go to high school, you just taught them a bad habit. And so this league follows a high school rule for the adornments. Okay, now let's talk about the game itself. We talked about advantage, disadvantage, point of attack. Let's start with the beginning of the game, a kickoff. This is where we need to. A lot of injuries happen on kickoff, so they changed the rule that only the kicker can be more than 5 yards away from the free kick line. Gone is the day where you got the guy that has that good 10-yard running start by the time they kick the ball. No, only the kicker can be more than 5 yards. And you have to have at least 4 guys on each side of the kicker. So let's say you want to do an onside kick, and you want your up guy to do the kick. Have your kicker be within the 5 yards. Then anyone can be the kicker, because everyone's within 5, as long as you got 4 guys on each side of the guy that kicks the ball. Okay, any questions on the alignment for kicking? Okay, and I know some of the younger I got to share this, I'm sorry. Punting, you have a freeze punt. We talk about advantage, disadvantage. We're watching this, it's a 4th grade game, and this kid, he's just, you know how the kids are, they're so excited. And like, okay, just hold still. Wait for the kick, you got to wait for the kick. He takes off. We're like, no, come back. And he's just get going, and the kid still hasn't snapped the ball. He takes off, and we're like, no, you got to stay here. It's a freeze punt. Some guy on the sideline says, hey, when are you going to call that? And I said, when he's in the 6th grade. Was there an advantage gained? Kids are lining up, coaches are trying to get kids lined up to do a punt in the 4th grade. The kid's just excited. It didn't do anything, but yeah, there are times that we'll call it and times we're going to try to help the kid. Okay, so kickoff. In order for it to be recovered by the kicking team, it must go 10 yards and touch the ground in any order, or be touched first by the receiving team. Okay? Lining up. One of the biggest challenges we have is formations. Basically, you have 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. You have 4 guys in the backfield on offense. Eligible receivers are the 4 people in the backfield and the 2 people on the end of the line. So whoever's on the end, if I have a tight end right here, and my wideout is on the line of scrimmage, my tight end by position is now ineligible because he's covered. So when we say, hey, your tight end is covered, coach, you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means there's somebody outside of him that's on the line of scrimmage. Make sure your guys, when they're on the line, and they can say, hey, I'm on, they'll put their arms back, we'll help them. Hey, yeah, back up a little bit. The challenge is when you get that slot guy is right here, and the wide receiver's right there, we can't tell who's on. Make sure he's a good yard off the ball. If he's off, make sure he's off. And we'll try to do the best we can to help him out, get him lined up. I will never, ever call a false start on a wide receiver if I'm telling him, you got to back up a little bit, and then they snap the ball. Now, maybe in an 8th grade game, or 9th grade game, but these little 6th graders or 7th graders, no. The coach gets nuts, goes nuts, hey, you got to call that. He's moving because I told him to. Okay, we have to be able to, we want to help them. Okay, now the rule last 2 years ago changed on formations. We say you have to have 7 on the line, but what if you only have 10 players or 9 players? Before it was an automatic, you got an illegal formation, you don't have enough on the line. The new rule now is you have to have at least 5 on the line and no more than 4 in the backfield. So if you come into punt formation and that kid on the sideline didn't realize you were putting in the punt team, and you only have 10 players on the field, get a beautiful punt, get great coverage, we're not calling it back with a 5-yard illegal formation penalty. So that's a great change. Again, some of these, I think they made the change to avoid the kicking game. Too many kicks cause too many penalties. So at least 5 on the line, no more than 4 in the backfield. Can you have 10 on the line? Yeah. You only have two eligible receivers besides your quarterback, but you can put 10 on the line. But no more than 4 in the backfield. And also in motion, we get this all the time. Hey, they're in motion, they're in motion. 2 guys are moving. Illegal motion is not a penalty until the ball is snapped. And it is only a penalty if all of the players had not been set at least 1 second before the last player went in motion. So if I have 2 guys going in motion and they both stop because they realize, who's supposed to be in motion, they reset, and then the one that's supposed to go in motion goes in motion, it's legal. It's just you can't have more than 1 in motion after everyone's been set for a second before the snap. Does that make sense? It's really a weird one, and where we get a lot of problems where you've got your slow lineman, it's the end of the game, and they're just sitting there trying to figure out how to get that next block, and your quarterback is going down, set. So now the lineman's going down and set, but he's sending his guy in motion at the same time. That's an illegal shift. Okay? Be aware of that, and those are ones that I just hate to call because there was no advantage gained, but you got to get your guys set. So try to work with that one. The next one I'm going to talk about is holding. One of the biggest misunderstandings in football is what is a hold and what is not a hold. There's a lot of grabbing in football, but it doesn't always constitute what a hold. A hold has to have some kind of restriction. There are two legal blocking techniques. One is called a cupped hand technique. My hands are cupped. Some of you probably remember being a lineman and being taught to block this way. Long time ago. That's the cupped hand technique. The other is open hand. My hands are open. This is legal. This is not legal, even though I'm inside the frame. And that's where we get coaches complaining. They say, he can hold inside the frame. By rule, you can't. That's a hold, because the blocking technique is open hand, not clenched fist. Okay? Now, am I going to see that as an official? Probably not. So when does that get called? If Morgan and I are just standing here like this, there's nothing. But once Morgan tries to go, and now I have a restriction, that's when we're probably going to see it. I'm not telling you to teach them to do that, but I'm telling you that it is a hold, and if we see it and feel like you have restricted that opponent at the point of attack, it's going to be called even though your guy had his hands inside. Because that's where we get the complaints. His hands were inside, but he held him. He restricted him. He impeded his path to the runner. And that's what you want your blocker to do, but there's a legal way to do it. Open hand or cupped hand. Okay, the other one is pancake blocks. Beautiful blocks, right? You completely overpower that defensive player. Okay, that's legal, and you land on top of him. Okay, where the problem comes is when you all of a sudden do the well and you have your arms out and you're staying on top of him. Get the kid off of him. You've already embarrassed him enough. Or where you will get called for a penalty is you knock the guy down and then your guy dives on top of him. That's a hold. Well, he's not holding him, he's not grabbing him. No, you have restricted him. That's a hold. It's not a pancake block. Pancake blocks are great. But if I knock the guy on the ground and jump on him, that is where they cross the line. Cut blocks. All right, let me talk. There's a thing called a free blocking zone. Have you ever heard? Did you know there's a free blocking zone? Wherever the ball is, 3 yards each side of the ball, so into the defense, into the offense, and 4 yards wide. So it's an 8x6 box. Okay, this box is called a free blocking zone, which means there are certain blocks that are legal as long as the ball is still in the zone. If I'm in shotgun, how long does that zone last? It's done. It's gone. But close line play, little quick handoff, that's a free, that blocking zone still exists. What it allows is blocking in the back is legal in the free blocking zone if the blocking zone is still intact. It's like you have a guard that's pulling and a defender comes through, and he comes through, and as long as it's not a blindside block, hands up. Morgan will talk about that. That's legal because he's in that zone if the ball is still in the zone. Cut blocks below the waist, are legal only when it's in the free blocking zone, the player initiating the block and the person with whom they are blocking are both on the line of scrimmage in the zone. And it's immediate. The offensive tackle cannot come up and then go down. That is now illegal. It has to be immediate. I have to be here, and my first movement is right down to make the cut. Chop blocks, that's a high block and a low block, are always illegal. There's a time where if you hit low first and you hit high, it was legal. They've removed that. Too many injuries. We're trying to make the game safe. Okay, any questions so far on that? We good? Okay, Morgan's going to talk about the blindside block and passing interference and things like that.
Okay. Along with the offensive holding, I was asked to talk about the defensive holding. Defensive holding and pass interference, this is probably one area where, when you go to college and you watch NFL, the rules differ quite a bit. A lot of times as officials, we hear defensive coaches and the kids saying, well, I got 5 yards, I can hit him and stuff. That's not what the high school rules state. The high school rules state for contact with a receiver for a defensive player is once the receiver establishes himself as a receiver, you're to leave him alone. It's not 5 yards. It is once he establishes himself as a receiver. And so as officials, usually what we're looking for is, if the receiver is running right at the defender, he's a potential blocker. He's not running his route. If he's running right at and that usually happens, if right at the line of scrimmage, right up there, before he establishes himself as a receiver, that's where contact can happen. Contact, it can't be a grab and hold or a tackle or anything like that. But if he's a potential blocker, the defender can contact him and engage him. But once he's established himself as a receiver and he's running his route, that's where the defender needs to leave him alone. That's where you're going to see the defensive hold calls is, holding and grabbing once the receiver has established himself as a receiver. And that goes into the next is the pass interference. Pass interference starts when the quarterback releases the ball. Any type of contact when the ball is in the air, which restricts either the offense or the defense from coming to the ball, could be either offense or defensive pass interference. And the big thing about pass interference is there has to be contact. Probably 5 years ago, they got rid of the face guarding penalty where, the defender is beat and then just raises his hands like this. But even though he doesn't contact the receiver, just by face guarding and preventing him from seeing the ball, that was considered pass interference. Now there has to be contact for a pass interference to be called. And that is, like I said, the NFL has the illegal contact and some of those other things. So what we're looking for is once the receiver has established himself as a receiver and is running a route, he needs to be left alone to run his route. As Kelly mentioned, one of the things that I'm talking about is, defenseless players. In the rule book, and this is all for safety. This is something that they've done in the last 5 years, which I think is great. They've identified various positions on the field where a player is defenseless. A quarterback that's just released the ball is defenseless. A punter, right after he's punted the ball, is defenseless. The snapper in a scrimmage kick situation is defenseless. There's somebody who receives what's called a blindside block. And a defenseless player is somebody, because of their focus of concentration and where they are on the field, they're unable to protect themselves. And, a blindside block is somebody who cannot protect himself from the block because he can't see it coming. You see those a lot on, the crackbacks. You have a receiver coming back in and hitting the defender, and the defender can't see him coming. And so they've identified to make those type of blocks legal, the only way they can be legal is if they're initiated by open hands like this. So stand up, Kelly. If Kelly's the defender and I'm coming into him like this is where you're going to see it. If I come in leading with my shoulder, that's going to be a blindside block. I can make it legal by this. And a lot of times what we see as officials, they're stupid blocks. All you really need to do sometimes is just shield them like this. Or, like I said, this right here. A lot of times those type of blocks are completely unnecessary, and what they are for is the highlight. because the offensive player knows, you know what, that guy's not looking, I can come and just light him up. And back when a lot of us played, those were you'd get a sticker on your helmet for a block like that.
Now you get a 15-yard penalty.
Yes. So that is considered a blindside block because that player is defenseless. Another situation that could happen, you got to run 30 yards down the field and you got a player just walking there and somebody just comes up and just lights him up. Somebody is completely away from the play and completely unnecessary. And as coaches, I'm sure you're frustrated by that because a lot of times that's going to take away a big play or something like that. So, once the play is moved on, kids just need to let it go and move on to the next play.
Yeah. One of the challenges, coaches, is we are playing in a different era. And play to the whistle, you tell your kids, play the whistle, play to the whistle, play to the whistle, or hit somebody, just hit somebody. And that's what we see is all of a sudden you get this guy running down the field, I got to hit somebody, and the other player, he's given up on the play and he just gets lit up. That's where it happens. It's those two philosophies that all of us played with. Play to the whistle and hit somebody. Not if they're not in a position to protect themselves or if it's obviously out of the play. Again, we want to protect the game. That's why these rules have been implemented.
Yeah. And it's all about protecting the players. If a player, because of his positioning and because of his area of concentration, is unable to protect himself from a hit, then those are the people that are protected. And one of the new rules this year is on protection for a defenseless receiver. And that also is a defenseless receiver could be a defender who's going for an interception. Because they put themselves, in a very vulnerable position when the pass is up high. They're reaching up high to get to that. And, we saw that where, in the old days, he's reaching up and gets two hands on it. The defender comes in and just knocks the snot out of him to, separate the ball so he drops the ball. Because, the receiver is in a defenseless position, they've now said there's three things that a defender can do to a defenseless receiver. Is they can make incidental contact while they're going for the ball. So going for the ball. And a lot of times that's not what the defender's doing. The defender is just trying to punish the receiver. If you're going for the ball, you're actually making a play on the ball and there's incidental contact, then that's legal. The second is similar to a blindside block, is you can contact that player with open arms like this.
Once I've touched the ball.
Yes, once he's contact, and again, just going in with your shoulder, trying to separate him from the ball, that is a penalty for contact on a defenseless receiver. And then the third thing, and this is what I've liked, and this is something that as officials has been an indicator for us for 4 or 5 years, and we told this to a lot of coaches, but it was never in the rule book. It's finally in the rule book. Your defender can contact the receiver with a wrap-up tackle. Not just the shoulder, trying to knock him into next week, with a wrap-up tackle. So you're actually trying to wrap up and tackle the defender, not trying to just put him on the ground. So those are three things that a defensive back can do in that situation. And that really helps us as officials. Because in those situations, it happens a lot in a game. So as officials, we look for those three things. And if one of those three things, the contact is not one of those three things, then it's going to be, illegal contact on a defenseless player. I also was asked to talk about a horse collar tackle. A horse collar tackle is the inside of the jersey and then the nameplate area. And where you grab it, and what you're looking for on this as officials is we're looking for the buckling of the knees. A lot of times people think that the horse collar tackle is to do with concussions and head injuries. It's for the knees. And so you got to grab him by the inside or the nameplate area and drag him either to the side or backward. If you have a defender that grabs him, is holding on to him, and then a couple teammates come on and in the tackle and they drive him forward, that's not a horse collar tackle. If the defender grabs him and pulls him and then he lets go and keeps going just because he grabbed him and pulled him, that's not a horse collar tackle. If he grabs him and takes him forward, that's not a horse collar tackle. It's got to be grab him and pull him back. And like I said, we look for the buckling of the knees, and that's what's considered a horse collar tackle.
Yeah, and with that, here's the exact wording. Grabbing the inside, back, or side collar, or the nameplate area directly below the back collar. So they did add the back of the jersey. Before, you had to actually have your hand inside the jersey. Now it's even on the nameplate. It says, of either the shoulder pads or the jersey of the runner, and subsequently pull backward or sideward the opponent to the ground. And that's what the horse collar is. There's another one that we get a lot of questions on, is what is an automatic first down? Pass interference, is that an automatic first down? No. Not in high school. In the pros, yeah, they got all kinds of, the illegal contact and all that, 5-yard first down. High school, automatic first down are penalties that have the word roughing. Roughing the passer, roughing the holder, roughing the kicker, the punter, roughing the snapper. Those are the penalties that come with an automatic first down. Other penalties, it depends on the yardage. With that, roughing the snapper, Morgan kind of referred to that. The way the rule is there is the snapper has to have an opportunity to come up and to establish himself. He is vulnerable with his head down. And that's why
Only
a lot
in
of times
scrimmage kick formation.
in scrimmage kick form, yeah, and it has to be in scrimmage kick formation, which is someone is at least 7 yards back. Now, if the guy's 6.5 yards, we're not going to say he's not far enough back to be in scrimmage kick formation, because we know your intent. You got a guy there that's going to kick the ball, or okay. It is kind of weird on punts though when you see the kid's only 5 yards back. It's going to get blocked, but sometimes they don't get back very far. But that's the roughing the snapper. The one thing that happens with roughing the passer is if he completes the pass, the penalty is added on the end of the run. So if he throws the ball down there, the guy catches it, and he gets clocked, and he made 30 yards, we're going to add 15 yards onto that play. So that's the one exception on the roughing the passer is an additional 15 if it's after the catch. We covered everything? Yep. We good? We just hit the 1 hour part, and that's what you wanted. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, we'll have you out of here in about 8 minutes. Okay, first reminder, if you came in late, there's a scanning skew. Cole's got some up here. Tom, did you end up in the back? Tom's over here in the back. Do you have any left, Tom? No, I didn't. Okay, so Cole's got the skew up here. If you didn't get one, you need to get that scanned, the 5 questions filled out, sent in. If you are one of the 3 guys that were here tonight that filled that out for your buddy that wasn't here, that's a bad idea. Okay, we'll let your president deal with you on that. Probably going to get you suspended for a game because we're looking for guys with integrity to be involved in our programs. Okay, all right, a couple things I've got still to add. Besides this course which you've just attended, there will be an online link. One second. It has steps right on it for you to follow. There's 3 15-minute courses that you also get to take again this year. Same course you took last year, but you get to take it, which then sends us a notification that you have taken it. The first one is about concussions, teaching you what you're looking for, how to take care of a player that's got one, and mostly teaching you not to put him back in because you might need to win the game even though he's not capable. So you'll need to take that. Your district president will get you that link. The second one is sportsmanship. Basically trying to teach you a few things that you should already know. Gonna cover one of those really quick for you, okay? The 10-play sheet, your players that need to play. It's an important part of what we're trying to accomplish in youth football. First of all, find ways to get your kids in and make sure it doesn't come down to the last 2 or 3 plays of the game that you're hoping you can get to 10 plays, and then you tell your other coach to lie and just fill in the check marks, okay? Get them in the game. That's part of your job. But the part talking about some ethics with it and sportsmanship, we saw over and over and over last year that after the 3rd game of the season, we sent an email out to every single one of you. When you were winning a game by 20, 28 points, and you start burning timeouts in the last 2 and 3 minutes of the game, trying to stop the clock, and we heard over and over and over, games I was officiating on, games Kelly was officiating, when you yell, "I'm using my timeouts, I gotta get my guy his 10 plays." Okay, you suck as a coach. If you are up 28 points and you have to use timeouts to get that kid his 10 plays, you should not be coaching. He should have got his plays long ago. And then the also part of the fine print that you didn't read is if you're winning by 28 points, he is supposed to have more than 10 plays. It goes up with your points. So on your sheet, while you're telling your guy to just fill in check marks, make sure you're filling in the right amount of check marks if you're lying when you're up 25 points, 28 points, and you're just filling them in so that you feel better about it, okay? And then in the end, okay, I'm a district president, I deal with it. There's a lot of mean, angry moms out there. I hate when they call me about my coaches that don't follow the rules, but I like to tell them, go ahead and talk to the coach. And then I call the coach and say, she's coming for you. You might want to start getting her son in, okay? So that's the first part. That link will come out. So you've got sportsmanship, you have concussion, and then, I don't know any better way to say this, you have sexual abuse or ways to avoid being caught in a situation where you're going to get accused of that, okay? Which the smart part that we cover right now as this league, you should never be there coaching alone. And at the end of the practice, make sure you get the boys out of there before you're the last guy there. Okay, but that course will give you some pointers on things you need to do to protect yourself. Because right now, you're the best coach on the planet and they love you. But about 5 games into it, when you didn't get their son to 10 plays, lots of crazy things get said. So you'll take those courses. That will send an email to your district president, and that's how we'll also track that. Our goal is to make you better coaches and help these kids along. Okay? All right, I'm still going here. Done with that one. Okay, our cheat sheet, rules cheat sheet. Probably the best thing we came up with last year. Some of you may remember it. It's got all the common things that happen while you're coaching, okay? So Kelly and Morgan came, they presented to you a couple of these changes. One of the things I forgot to mention at the first of this meeting, okay? A lot of you like to on Sunday sit on the couch and watch the NFL. Others of you like to watch college football on Saturday. We play high school federation rules, okay? They are so different than what they're doing in pro football and college football. So if you're the guy that wants to yell at our officials, make sure you actually are yelling about the right set of rules. That, once again, I say things I shouldn't, but most of you don't know them. Okay, most of you do know NFL rules and college rules, but they don't apply to what we're doing. So when you get this rule sheet, which has ballooned and grown now to 4 sheets of rules, please read it. They're quick, they're easy, but they'll let you know. It'll teach you, as Kelly just talked tonight, about what the new holding rule is. It will teach you about what your DB can do to a receiver, which I like to cover this one because this will show you that you might not know the rules. In high school football, you cannot bump the receiver coming off the line. But most of you think you can. You cannot. You cannot bump him. You have to let him run. If he goes and engages your DB, because he's going into blocking, that's where the contact can start to happen. Okay? But that's just one of those that I give you as an example of the difference between the levels of the rules. So please read that rule sheet. Okay? On that rule sheet, the newest addition that came from last year's season of we get to learn new things and add it to the list. There is no Bluetooth. There is no earbud allowed for communicating with your players on the field. Your quarterback can't have it. You can't have it on anyone on the field. It's not acceptable. It's not legal. Okay? And it's now on the rule sheet. This year, I hope we don't have to add 2 or 3 new things that we never thought were possible, but we've been introduced to them. Okay? All right, I'm really almost done here. 10 play sheet, online course, earpiece. Okay, last one I got. 8th grade football. You are playing 16-minute quarters, just like all the other age groups. The only level of football in this conference that's playing anything other than 16-minute quarters is freshman football, which they'll be playing a high school clock. Okay? So that'll be on that sheet as well when you get confused of how many minutes, how long your game is. They're 16-minute quarters just like the other age groups. Okay? All right, with that, hopefully you actually found positive into why we brought you here. Our goal is to help you be more successful, more safe, and also to avoid ejections, problems, arguments. You should be able to come to that field, have a great experience, and go home and get in your car and feel like, that was good tonight. Instead of have a ripping headache, wanting to crash into 2 of the cars on the way out of the parking lot, and then having road rage all the way home. If that's happening, your team's probably really bad, and it's probably also a little bit of what you got going on coaching. Don't let that happen. Have fun with this and have fun with the boys. Other than that, the very last things for you, we're already starting to get quite a few emails and question. When is the schedule coming out? When is the schedule coming out? Not this weekend. Don't worry about it. Don't be looking for it. It will come out sometime next week, probably towards the end of the week. Okay? We know you want to make plans. We know you need information to pass on to your parents, your team. But we've got a whole lot of teams we're working with. We've also got a lot of district presidents we're working with to know when we can have a field, when we can't have a field. And then we keep getting some districts that call and say, hey, we added a team. And we're like, no, you didn't. We already got the schedule done. But no, we added a team. And then poor Debbie that's back there, she's like, okay, I'll start over. We don't want to do that anymore. Don't add any more teams, but be patient. You'll find out your game time soon. And then go give it your all and have fun. And with that, I'm good. Thank you for coming out. Go home safe and have a great season.